What's happening, y'all? So in this video, I want to break down why Paid in Full is one of the best written movies in the past 35 years, okay? Once again, Paid in Full, that hood movie that people say, oh, it was all right, or I really like the movie. Some people, Paid in Full is their favorite movie, okay? It's one of my favorite movies also, all right? But I'm gonna break down why it's such a good movie, all right? Now, Paid in Full is, of course, based on a true story, all right? Rich Porter, Alpo, AZ, all right? In this movie, we have Mitch, we got Ace, and I think Camron is called Rico. All right. But it's based on a true story that happened in Harlem. All right. So let's get into this. First, I'm a writer myself. Okay, director also. I've written all kind of stuff. I'm gonna break down why, writing wise. And I hope that this video, and I know this video will help you if you are a writer or trying to get into writing or want to understand writing. If you're an actor and you want to understand a good script from a bad script, okay? Good writing as opposed to bad writing. This video will help you. Okay, so I encourage you to watch it to the end. All right, so let's get into this. We have basically three kings here. All right, we got three kings. We have to our left Rico. All right, then we got in the middle Mitch, and then to our right we have Ace, who's essentially the protagonist in this story. Okay, I say three kings because this movie is basically like Caesar in the Hood. Okay. They're three kings because they're essentially three street kings. They have their own kingdoms with workers under them, okay? And in the Hood universe, okay, they're like the Hood Avengers coming together, okay? They really, really are. That's what the movie basically is, like a superhero movie of hustlers, okay? Now let's get into the writing. Now, Will Harris plays Ace. He's the protagonist. He's the one who is doing the narrating in the movie, okay, at times. And we can see in the film that he's essentially the smartest out of all of them, okay? He may not be the most street smart when it comes to having time in the game, like Mitch, but he has the most common sense out of all three of the basically the kings, okay, in this movie. We can see, for example, what I like about the movie is that the movie does have a villain. And once again, it's based on a true story. It's not something that's just fiction. Those are all fiction, okay? At the end of the day, bring something that can elevate somebody's mind. Bring something that someone can learn from. You know, it's the worst thing in the world to me to read a book where I'm reading the entire book. It may take months to read a book, weeks to read the book, and I haven't learned one thing at all. Okay, I feel like that's a waste of time. I feel like it's a waste of money. Same thing with watching the movie. Okay, and this movie definitely has a villain. We see that, but for a movie to be good, if there to be a villain and a good villain, you got to have a protagonist who you care for. Okay, you have to have the villain is the antagonist. You have to have a protagonist that you care for. Okay, now we have Ace, the protagonist. What's his storyline? Well, his storyline, I'm trying to say as quick as possible. His storyline is he's basically working for a laundromat. For cleaners. Regular guy, you know, in Harlem, trying to make his way, trying to making a little money here and there. Okay, he gets mixed up in a drug game. He ends up becoming one of these kings. Okay, after Mitch gets locked up. All right, and then there's another guy I forget the guy's name. There's another guy, street hustler that gets locked up. I forget the guy's name, and they're like big time in Harlem. And they both get locked up, so he ends up taking their places. Okay, but we see that he's smarter, and we see it quickly through Rico. Okay, because when he first meets Rico, when Ace first meets Rico, okay, hopefully this picture is showing up. I'm doing this on my phone. That's why I say sometimes my phone does dumb stuff. But when Ace first meets Rico, all right, who's played by Camron, he pulls up on like a Kawasaki with that, right? And he's doing stunts down the street on a bike, right? And he's like, yo, I know Mitch. I was locked up with Mitch, and you know you can trust him. You can always confide in me, X, Y, Z. And Ace is like, okay, and he kind of has steps back, like, who is this guy? You understand? Seemed kind of reckless. Which is right. His intuition is like protecting him. Then later we see Mitch and Rico. And Rico, one of the first things Rico says is, "Look, we need to hit up DC," which is something that Alpo, who basically Cameron is playing in real life, the guy named Alpo is who he's playing as Rico. Okay, that's something that Alpo actually did. He was in DC a lot. Okay, he was like, "Look, we need to go to DC, work things out there. X, Y, Z, blah blah. That's where the money is at. That's where the game is at. And there's big time dealers in DC in real life." Okay, so but they're in Harlem, all right, and at that time Mitch who was the biggest king, essentially, the oldest king in Harlem at that time, at least amongst the three, he's the oldest out of three kings. He was like, I don't know, Harlem is where it's at. This is why I know. This is my kingdom. And he's like, no, we need to move over here, or at least we need to get money over there too. So he says, run it by. So then Midgets all kind of run an idea by basically the biggest king at the time, which is now Ace, because when they was locked up, Ace took over, and Ace has more common sense than the rest of them. Okay, so we see that when the first time that he hears something, the first time that Ace hears something that came from Rico, which is we need to go to DC, the director was like, and I give it to the director. The director was like, look, once he says DC, Rico said, let's go to DC. Immediately, I want you to start shaking your head. I know that's what the director said, because once he said it, it was like he couldn't even finish saying the words before Will Harris, who was playing Ace, was just shaking his head like, no, that's not a good idea, no. And it's set up in the movie. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about when I talk about good writing, okay? So I mean when I talk about really good writing. It shows how Ace's character immediately felt that the logic and the reasoning, okay? Because with the issue between Rico, if you know the movie, the issue between Rico and Ace throughout the movie is the logic and the reasoning of Rico clashes with the reasoning of Ace. All right. And Rico's always saying things that Ace is like, why would I do it? It don't make no sense, or not now, or not that way. I understand with your heart, but not that way. And Rico is like a kid, essentially. All right. And Ace at this point is almost like an adult compared to him. Okay. At least when it comes to common sense. All right. So he says, look, let's go to DC. He's like, no, that's not a good idea. So the movie sets it up immediately. You don't understand that Rico could be the villain in the movie, but you understand that, something probably going to happen with Rico, because Rico is just rubbing this man the wrong way, okay? Movie does a good job of setting up these different characters, okay, and letting you know about them. It shows each character in a good amount of time for you to have some care for them. We see the movie set up Ace, and then it also sets up, and you see the home life, okay, Mekhi Phifer's character, who is Mitch. It doesn't show a ton of it doesn't show a lot of Rico, all right, in the film. Rico really kind of comes in like in the midway point of the film. You don't see a lot of him in his home life, or you see some things that he does, but it's a reason why it doesn't really show too much of that, and it kind of hides who he is to a degree, and that's good. But we see a lot of Mekhi Phifer and Will Harris's characters at their home life, and it really humanizes both of these characters. Okay, him being like the old king from the old guard, basically, who's the character that Mekhi Phifer is playing, who is what's his name again? Oh, Mitch. Okay, Mitch. Keep almost saying Rich. I think he's supposed to portray Rich. Okay, in real life, the guy name is Rich, but they call him Mitch in the movie. Okay, so as we see in this picture right here, he got the gold on. You understand? He looking clean. He's very well spoken, very smooth. But the movie shows at times, like it's a point in the movie where he gets locked up because he goes after somebody because one guy got robbed by somebody. Okay, and he's like, look, we don't do that. Okay, so they're each like different bosses in this movie and Paid in Full. They're doing different things. We see the way Rico is. Rico is like, look, we're gonna get it by any means. I'm a man for the people, but I'm gonna do it by any means. And then of course we have Ace, who's like, look, we gotta be careful what we do. We can get this money, we all can eat, but we gotta do it a certain way. Okay, what they're doing, all of what these guys are doing is illegal. All of what these guys are doing is actually wrong. Okay, but it does show growth in how they are growing and how they are learning. Okay, and in that, it's worth watching me just because of that, because you can see them, and it's also a true story. You can see how these men are growing in their craft, essentially. Okay, sad to say it wasn't something that was good, but they were still learning in it. Okay, and good did come from it, at least from you could say on the side of AZ in real life, who Will Harris is playing as Ace. Okay, and I say that because some of these guys, as they got older, they start to learn. You understand? Of course, a lot of these guys are not alive anymore. But for the people that are alive, they understood, okay, well, this is what I did. Okay, and this is what was dumb about it. And they tried to lead people the right way and so on and so forth. Okay. And sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes they end up losing lives, or they just stay in the game even when they're old, okay, and get locked up again or something stupid like that. So the movie also focuses on Scarface to a degree. I like that. Now, one thing I want to say is that in good writing, in it, or whether you're reading a good book or whatever, you always want to maximize your time in life. You want to maximize your time. If I'm with you, if I'm going on a date with you, if I'm going to a party with you, whatever wherever we are, whatever we're doing, maximize the time that you have with people. Okay, maximize the time you have with your parents, whatever, because you don't know how long you're gonna have them. Okay, when I'm watching a movie, reading a book, I want everything I'm reading, everything I'm watching to be maximized. Meaning that I want them to put in there everything. I want them to put in the time that I'm reading stuff that is important, stuff that is adding to the story, not just there for no reason at all. For example, this movie shows people in the movies in Harlem watching Scarface. You may feel like when they watch Scarface, just so that as a way of nostalgia, so people can watch this movie. But oh yeah, if you getting bored of this movie, watch remember Scarface. But the movie is not showing Scarface just to throw it in there as a name, as a way to boost the movie by showing something that they like, maybe more than made a fool. But it's because Scarface represents a lot of what this movie is showing, which is that a chase and a mad dash after money, which will only lead to destruction. Just like Scarface ran after that money and was, he was a likable character. He was a well-meaning guy at the end of the day. He wasn't an innocent guy when he came to the U.S., okay, from Cuba in the movie in Scarface, but he was a well-meaning guy, but he just descended because the money blinded him and led to his demise at the end of the day. And Scarface is shown in this movie for a reason. Okay, and get that to the writers and to the director. It's shown in the movie as an undercurrent to show this is what the movie is really about. Okay, no matter what it looks like, this is what it's actually about. Okay, understand that. There's also a scene in the movie where you see Ace. I think if I'm not mistaken, it's either the point where he's being I don't think it's the point where he's being robbed, maybe, but it's a point where he's in the bathroom, and I think he's like brushing his teeth or something like that. There was something, and you see that he has a cup, like a coffee cup, and it says "The world is yours," which is a nod to the Paid in Full movie. Okay, I'm sorry, not the Paid in Full movie, but the Scarface movie, I should say. Also, before I go any further, I gotta say this: the director of Paid in Full, okay, one of my favorite movies, is Charles Stone III. Okay, a brother from Philly, okay, from Philadelphia, PA. Okay, this is information right now came up online. Guy from Philly, just like us, okay? And we're making our film, okay, here in Philly, The Golden Dragonfly. Make sure you check it out. All right. And yeah, hey, this guy's from Philly too. I never knew that till today. It says here that he directed Drumline, which is the movie a lot of people like. Uncle Drew, and he directed a bunch of movies. He also did a lot of he did videos for the Roots, okay? Music videos for the Roots, I believe, and he also did a bunch of stuff for TV. Okay, so this guy was definitely getting work, and I thought he did a great job with this movie, okay? I like how he showed things more than just having to be shown in exposition. He actually sat there and showed certain. It was like he was challenging the viewer, okay, and bringing them in with subtle things, like subtle jabs, okay. Instead of a lot of movies today, a lot of directors and writers, they act as if the audience is stupid, and then everything has to be just thrown in your face very, very, like 10, 20 times for you to get a point. Instead of having faith, like a lot of British movies do, and foreign movies, they have faith that the audience has an IQ above zero, and because of that, they'll put stuff there so you can put pieces together. Okay. Nowadays, like everyone is pandering to the YouTube community, and they're like, "Oh, we don't want someone to come on and review movies. I didn't understand this, I didn't understand that," because they weren't paying attention because they have a low IQ. No, they're saying, "Look, you should have you should have basic intelligence enough to understand we're going to put in this movie, and we're going to put it in as if you have basic intelligence." Okay, and that's the way this movie is written and directed, like, and I can really appreciate that. Okay. Of course, I can't leave out the scene where Mekhi Phifer is in the car and he's crying. A lot of people have turned this into a meme, okay? But at the end of and I think a lot of people, like I say, also a lot of people, they don't even know where this actually is from. Now, a lot of young kids, I'm sure, have seen this meme and don't even know, because I've met people before and never seen Paid in Full, okay? People, you'd be surprised. People have never seen the movie before. But they've seen this meme before. They don't know where it's actually from. Paid in Full is such a crazy film. I think it's a really well-written film. But I got to say this, and that is that even this scene right here, right there in the car, okay, he's crying because of something that happened, all right, a loss of somebody, and he's like, "Look, I'm at the breaking point right now. I'm going after everybody I possibly can because this was just wrong." One of his family members lost their life; they were held at ransom, okay, and he's like, "Yo, this is crazy." But the thing is, part of it was because this happened to Mekhi Phifer's character, who was Mitch. It happened also because he had money and people knew he had money. So it's like really showing how, not through a bunch of exposition, but just him saying I'm upset, and it's brief, and then he just starts to cry. And one reason why I like Paid in Full is the fact that a lot of movies that are written with black men, especially in the hood, I would say 99% of the time, it's a ton of moments in these movies or shows where stuff happens that black men would never do. I was just watching something on Apple TV the other day, okay, that was shot in Philadelphia. It was a TV show shot in Philadelphia, a new show. I'm watching it, and I'm like, no black guy would say that. Or I'm like, no, that don't seem believable. It's just like all kind of little moments I watched stuff, and I had to turn off, and I was like, it was just rubbed me the wrong way. And I could tell that the person that wrote it either wasn't a black male, or they just, not that you have to be, but just they didn't really understand, how we think. Okay, the show looked good. It's just I'm just like I couldn't get into that. It's a lot of shows that people watch, a lot of drug shows that people watch and stuff, and I'm like, I've been over people's houses before and seen them watch these different shows, Power, whatever it is, and I'm watching these, not coming against Power to say as an example, right? Different shows like that. And I'm watching the show, and I'm listening to the dialogue, and I'm like, I would never watch the show because the dialogue is just so. I'm not saying it's completely unrealistic, but it's just so many points where stuff is realistic, stuff is not realistic. Stuff is written almost like, like who wrote this? It's just like the writing a lot of times is hard to digest. Okay, whereas a Paid in Full, everything dialogue wise, I feel like really, really stands up. It really, really stands up. Okay. The director was not, I don't believe he was a big time, kingpin like that, but the movie does a great job of just really being it really breaks the dialogue down in a real realistic way. Okay. Only thing I can say as bad is that it is points where sometimes it seems like the things that they're saying are repetitive in their speech and vernacular, but overall I felt that it held up very, very well. Okay. You may say, oh, it's not that hard to write for black dudes in the hood. Just have them using the F word a lot, have them cuss a lot. And that's not at all the case. You may think that that's how easy it is, but it's really not that easy. Okay. For example, this scene right here, he's in the car, right? It could be just him going on and on. Mitch going on and just talking about all kinds of different things in life. It's a point where a guy like him wouldn't do that. Okay. The fact that a black guy is crying in front of another man because he's in the car talking to Ace, okay, who's like his underboss. Well, now he's essentially not his underboss. He was like the underboss of him, okay, because he was locked up all that time. And that's like a big deal. I've seen maybe one black guy in my life who's actually like shed a tear in front of me. I know all kind of people, okay. That's extremely rare. Okay, extremely rare. Somebody like that is that a guy would cry in front of another man. A black man will cry in front of another man. That's extremely rare. Okay. We will do that in front of a woman, but not in front of each other. Okay. So that's a very, very big moment. And the movie had to be careful the way they played it, and they did a very good job of executing that. Okay. And I once again give that to the director. Okay. Another thing I like about this movie so much is the fact that it has a lot that it doesn't show you up front. It really hides his cars. But then again, it does show you his cars. And that is what I love. That's called basically essentially mystique. Okay, which is so different from the era that we live in right now. The era that we live in right now, the time we live in right now, everything has to be up in your face. Okay, it's like if you got muscles, show them. If you got money, show it. If you got a big butt, let me see it right now. Everything has to be right in your face. You understand what I'm saying? It's nothing that can be hidden, nothing that can be covered up. Okay, in the age that we're in right now. Okay, it's like people have zero patience. People do have patience, but the way society is being driven is as if they don't want anyone to have any patience. Okay, this movie is a movie that will probably be harder to digest and to be greenlit by Hollywood than it was in the early 2000s when it came out. Okay, we see in the beginning that, for example, the movie opens up and we see Rico, Mitch, and Ace. I think they're playing cards, and it seems like it's just a small scene that doesn't mean much, but it means a whole lot. Okay, it means a whole lot because it shows a dynamic between them. That if you remember that scene, I'm talking about the opening scene, we see that I think Ace like makes a I think they bet on I think Rico and Mitch bet on a shot that I believe either Ace or Mitch makes when he shoots them in the trash can. Okay, they eat Chinese food. I think shoot some trash in trash can. I think Rico says, look, I bet you can't make that, whatever, right? So he makes it. So now, and it bet us for like 10 grand, whatever. So Rico is, and they all got money. Like I said, these like 3 kids. They all got money, okay? But Rico, you can see that, and they all there laughing, having a good time. But you can see it's like an undercurrent of insanity because Rico, he's like, no, double up. Like, no, give me another chance. He's like, no, go, let's do this again, okay? And then he eventually gets his money back, okay, when he misses. And then he's like, yo, give me your food for now. If you don't got the money, give me your food for now. And I think Mitch asked to borrow money from Ace, all right? And it's like at one point we see that Rico is down. And Rico is almost like an animal, just trying to, he's like a fish out of water essentially, okay? When he loses that bet, and he's just grasping for air, and he's like, yo, and it's almost like he's joking, but really he's not joking. You know what I mean? He's like laughing, like yo, okay, I got all the money, but really he's not joking. And that scene is one of the most important scenes in the movie, and it's shown early because it shows you how, and then you don't see Rico for like half of the movie after that. It's like you forget that dude's even in the movie. But it's important because it shows how Rico, he's really not smart. It really gives you to understand that Rico probably squanders his money, okay? Because they all get money, but he was concerned about 10 grand, like he didn't have any, or it could also be that he just don't like losing that much. Okay, he cannot have a loss on his record. Whatever the case may be, we can see that it's something awful in the guy. But at the end of the day, they kind of laugh it off, and it's almost like everything fine. No one hurt at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And they all, at the end of the day, they both willingly entered that bet. Okay, but it just shows like the movie kind of, like I said, the movie doesn't show Rico for half the movie, so you can actually forget that he's even in the film. All right, or you can forget when you see him first that you even saw him in the beginning of the film. So the movie and the director, they have faith in the audience, and right in the script you have to have faith in the audience. Like I always say, not everything is for everybody. Painted Fool is not for everybody. If you write, what you write is not for everybody. You can't please everybody either. Just like in real life, you can't please everybody. Not everybody's gonna like you. Not everybody's gonna think you're attractive. Some people will love you. Some people will hate you. There's nothing you can do about that. You keep on living your life and don't worry about the haters at all. Don't let the thought of them enter your mind. Okay. Once again, kudos to the director. One of the last scenes the movie shows is Camron's character, okay, Rico, being interrogated. All right, he looks to the camera, and this is crazy because the movie came out in the early 2000s, right? He looks into the camera and he says, "That's all right, because when I get out, I'm still gonna be king." And do you know that when Al Poe, who he basically is playing, got out, like a year, like maybe 2 years or so after he got out, okay, he goes back to Harlem where he was supposed to be at. All right, because also that he did, which I'm not going to talk about in this video, but he did a lot of stuff. He goes back to Harlem where he shouldn't have been at, and I think it was on Halloween. I think it was like a Halloween party. He goes back to Harlem and lost his life. Okay, somebody touched him, lost his life. And I thought it's kind of crazy how that movie almost like prophesied that. He said, it was like saying, look, no matter what, I'm always going to be going right back to the same hood. And that's exactly what the real guy did in real life. Okay, and it cost him his life, which is crazy. So once again, I give the movie like a 9 out of 10. Great study if you're trying to understand writing, paid in full. Check it out. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe, follow. Watch out for our movie, The Golden Dragonfly. Okay, coming to theaters, coming to streaming real soon. Okay, check it out. Thanks for watching. Until next time, peace.